Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. In this video, I like to kick off Christmas by ruining it. I'm going to take a look at how 2021 has treated people cut off from the care that a wealthy, advanced society should really be able to provide everyone. But, you know, the pressures on badly undervalued systems that broke under COVID and Brexit has left a lot of people isolated. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, Christmas jumper time. I am reliably informed that Christmas Eve is the main day of celebration for some people around Europe. So let's go with that. In this video, I'd like to talk about a couple of topics that hit home especially hard for many at this time of year. Namely, involuntary isolation from society. Something I appreciate the harm it can do. I don't really experience it myself. Not because I've always been around people at Christmas. I haven't. I've spent a good chunk of my adult life single and not very gregarious, so often alone at Christmas. But no need for sad panda face. I didn't mind it one little bit. I preferred it. Quite enjoyed the peace and quiet. But I've known people who seem to have a real need to be socially very active, to be surrounded by lots of people, even if they don't know them terribly well. Very sociable. The difficulties of cutting down the social activities during the pandemic will be, I can appreciate, if not truly understand, very significant. In some cases, causes depression, sometimes severe depression. Some ghouls in the media will try and use these cases as reasons why we shouldn't curtail those social interactions at all. Of course, that is then to ignore the consequences of doing that, which are far more serious to more people as well. Basically, this pandemic is bad. Whatever you do, it's bad. Of course, we have to limit close social interactions because not doing so means that this virus keeps going around our population. It will never, ever end until we actually deal with it properly. You know, we also give it a chance to mutate into more transmissible variants by allowing it to propagate. And the Omicron variant is several times more transmissible than the original form of the virus. You know, we plead with our governments to take meaningful steps to avoid the need for lockdowns. But when they don't, or when their efforts are insufficient, then we sometimes need to lock down. In the UK, it happens too regularly and for too long because our government responds to the relative success of each lockdown by, instead of preparing to take over and manage the rate of infection without the lockdown, they just remove all the measures. Oh, we're out of lockdown now, all the measures gone, and learn nothing. You know, I came across an article on the BBC News site about a week ago. It talked about a reformed drug dealer who's helping people in need with all sorts of things. But this particular article focused on his more recent work on helping those suffering from mental health problems during the lockdowns. Part of the article mentioned the efforts of one woman that she made to get help for a partner who was struggling very badly with the lockdown. And the day he took his life is the day she got the phone call from the mental health team who finally got around to his case. It's too late then, of course. The human cost of an undervalued and underfunded essential element of a modern healthcare system means that the wait for help is too long and it can be too late. You know, mental health care has always been poor in this country. I suppose it in a lot of countries, most countries if not. You know, too few people take it seriously. Like if someone has a sore elbow, they'll be around the doctors in no time. But crippling depression, and people don't even see it as an illness. But the main subject of the article was providing help to those in desperate need of help with mental health problems. You know, we're one of the wealthiest countries in the world, and yet people in need can't access mental health treatments. You know, doctors will prescribe drugs to manage the immediate symptoms, but the actual treatment seems to be rare. I've known so many people, as I'm sure everyone has, who've had serious mental health problems. I don't know of a single one who ever got treatment on the NHS. Not a single one. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I know it must exist. It always seems to me to be a very low level of provision if everyone I've known who's needed it has never got it. If they've had it at all, it's been private. And it's also an illness that is often invisible, of course, which makes it much worse because you can't even have concerned neighbours or someone go, oh, you don't look well, should we get some help? You know, your neighbour could be suffering very badly. You never know. We get to Christmas and for some people the impact is worse. You know, I've never had any particular regard for Christmas myself. I'm a Christian, but I don't consider it a religious festival. I know what it is. It's the winter solstice feast. And the Romans came along and tried to persuade the pagans to worship Jesus instead of the sun. As long as they got to carry on eating and drinking, they seemed cool with it. You know, I've also never associated it strongly with a time of family gatherings either. But if people do identify it strongly as a time to be with loved ones and they can't be, that's tough. You know, maybe some watching this are having a tough time, or maybe you know someone who might be. It might be an opportune moment to mention that help does exist. You know, just because the government don't provide it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And it doesn't just come from individual caring people who may or may not be in your community, who create their own support network, but organised groups as well. The Samaritans are often forgotten about times of distress for people. The number is free. Doesn't matter whether it's landline or mobile. But isolation this year has also hit people in physical ways. There's been a particularly psychotic tweet doing the rounds on social media from Darren Grimes. You may have seen it. He's the guy who helped one of the Brexit campaigns break the law during the 2006 referendum campaign. He was convicted, but then had his conviction quashed on appeal, essentially on the grounds that he was too thick to know what he was doing. Anyway, there were more moronic points in his tweet, but I don't think I have time to go through those. But this one fits into the theme of this video. He says it's been a year since the Brexit deal was agreed. Has anyone starved to death? No. Now, the usual takes on this, almost ubiquitously, that is a pretty low bar to set for a Brexit success. That wasn't on the illegal campaign bus, was it? Vote Brexit, nobody will starve to death. The actual campaign included claims that the cost of food would go down. It's gone up massively. It's about to go up even more. We're on almost 6% inflation for the year. But even this low bar is a failure. Because a lot of people saw that and go, well, that's a pretty low bar for success. I saw it and I remembered an article from a few months ago. Found it. There's a link in the description below, but I think it might be behind a paywall. In actual fact, someone has starved to death in this country this year. The first time in 2 decades, apparently. Now, we're used to seeing too many accounts of people starving to the point of malnutrition. We know this is affecting millions of people. We do have millions of people starving in this country. It's shameful in such a wealthy country. It doesn't have to happen. It's a political choice. But yes, actually allowing someone to literally starve to death is not something that was happening until this year. Only a cretin like Grimes could make that statement without actually bothering to research the veracity of his dubious claim first. Not that he's in any danger. Paid a fortune to spew his poison, or more usually someone else's poison, into our public discourse. But it reminds me of that scene in The Simpsons where another Grimes, Frank Grimes, has a go at Homer and says that in any other country you'd have starved to death years ago. Well, it's not just America that allows parasitic simpletons to enjoy a comfortable life. So no, Darren Grimes, even your exceedingly low bar for it's turned all right after all was not met. You brainless blot, you didn't even meet your own exceedingly low bar for success. So although most of us are hoping for an enjoyable Christmas, or at least one where we don't kill someone we love with a deadly virus, which I guess is in itself a lower bar as compared to previous years, I am mindful of those for whom Christmas is actually a really rather crap time of year. It might be that it's more isolated for them and they don't want it to be. It might be because they can't afford to have much of a Christmas and they feel bad when they look at other people around them. It might be because domestic abuse incidents tend to increase at this time of year, or that it's now very cold for those who are homeless, or who have a home but can't afford to heat it. It might be because Christmas is a time of family gatherings for many, that the absence of someone who will not be here this year, who can't be here this year, is a lot to bear. Whatever the reason, however badly our government or selfish pricks in the media make their plight worse, it's also worth remembering there are people who put themselves out to make a difference for the better, like the guy in the BBC article, like those who volunteer for the Samaritans. But those are my more sober Christmas thoughts for this year. I might have something slightly more upbeat tomorrow. Actually, it won't be, but the manner in which I present it may be. Until then, have a good time to those celebrating today, and I'll see you later.